What's the big deal if my cat wants to do drugs? Oh, hello there. I didn't see you come in. I was just reading one of my favorite books. How to talk to your cat about gun safety and abstinence, drugs, Satanism, and other dangers that threaten their 9 lives. If you're a cat owner, you should definitely check this one out. It's fantastic. For today's class, you'll need 2 blocks, a blanket, and a chair. The blanket and the chair can go off to the side for the beginning of class. The blocks can be near your mat, and we'll start in tabletop position. I'll meet you there. As we start in tabletop, just start to move your shoulders around your wrists and your hips around your knees. In today's class, we have a lot of sliding drills to do. This is a very drill-heavy class that we're going through today. So we'll take some time to get our hands really warmed up because we'll have our hands on the ground for a good portion of class, and then we won't have our hands on the ground. So turn the fingers to face the side edges of the mat and your wrists towards one another. Keep moving around. And you can keep the left hand where it is. Follow the right pinky finger. Turn the right hand clockwise until the right middle finger is pointing to or towards the inner left wrist. So that would mean the right inner wrist is facing towards the side edge of the mat. The hand might not get there completely with the full rotation, but that's okay. Try to keep the heel of the right hand grounded. Maybe just move around here for a moment. Then unwind the right arm. Right fingers point to the right. Now we'll try it with the second hand. Follow the left pinky finger. Turn it counterclockwise until the middle finger is pointing to or towards the inner right wrist. The inner left wrist is facing towards the outer edge of the mat. Again, the rotation of the 2 arms and wrists could be very different from one another. My left wrist does not rotate nearly as much as my right wrist, and that's totally fine. But try to keep the heel of the left hand down and just move around gently. Cool, unwind the left hand. Now you'll start to turn the thumbs in towards one another till the middle fingers face one another. The thumbs are pointing towards the knees. Bend and straighten the elbows a few times with a hand placement like this. So the elbows are going out towards the side edges of the mat. You might feel a little bit of broadening the armpits even as you're moving through this. Cool, re-straighten the arms. Now just flip the backs of the hands to the mat. Middle fingers still point towards one another, and bend and straighten the elbows a few times, pressing down through the backs of the hands this time. Re-straighten the arms. Turn the inner wrist to face forward, fingertips towards knees. Slight bend in the elbows and shift forwards and backwards. Now as you're shifting backwards, try to keep the heels of the hands on the ground the whole time. Good. Turn the hands back forward. Step the feet back to plank pose. And in this first plank pose, just shift forwards and backwards on the toes a few times. Then lower your knees to ground. Untuck the toes to the hips back to the heels. So we'll have a few different moments of basically just pure rest time in class, like this, where we're seated on our shins. You can do whatever the fuck you want to during these points. Right now, maybe just shake out the hands. Maybe try to clap the finger pads to the inner wrist. Then bring the hands to the mat, step the feet back to plank pose. Cool, now in plank pose, you'll pick up the left hand, touch the left fingertips towards the right ankle. So you're basically in a 3-point downward dog. Then bring the left hand forward to plank pose. Pick up the right hand, right fingertips to left ankle, right hand forward, plank, side to side. For 5, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 1. We'll meet in plank pose. Then lower everything to the mat. Slide the fingertips wide, point the elbows up, untuck the toes. Roll the shoulders back and help peel the upper body off the ground. Then reach back through the toes, start to lift the feet off the ground. Maybe you lift the shins, maybe you even lift the knees slightly off the mat. Now pick up the hands, just hover the hands. Exhale, lower back to the mat. Again, same 3-part lift. Inhale, lift the chest. Lift the feet. Now lift the hands, keep the buoyancy. Exhale, lower back down. Once more, inhale, lift the chest. Lift the feet. Lift the hands. Exhale, lower to the mat. Bring the fingertips under the shoulders. Tuck the toes behind you. Rise to plank pose. Then lift the hips up and back to downward facing dog. Now, of course, we'll move around for a few moments in downward dog. Just to get the legs moving, the arms moving a little bit more. And just like we were doing in plank pose, keeping this high elevation in the hips, you'll go left hand across the right ankle, left hand forward, down dog, right hand across the left ankle, right hand forward, down dog. 5 times through each leg. 4, 3, 2, 1. Cool. Lower the knees to ground. Sit the hips back to the heels. Again, another opportunity, just a moment to shake out whatever you need. And our next little drill piece is we'll go to plank pose. We'll do 5 push-ups, and then we'll lower the forearms to the ground from plank pose towards forearm plank, even kind of a dolphin pose, and then back to plank pose 5 times. So the knees will be either lifted or on the ground for your 5 push-ups. The knees will be lifted or off the ground, or lifted or on the ground for your 5 plank to forearm plank / dolphin, back and forth. Cool? Plank pose. 5 push-ups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now it's 5 lowers of the forearms and lift back to plank. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Cool, then lower the knees, so the hips back to the heels. A moment to rest. And that's a good moment. 4 and 4, same thing. 4 push-ups. 4 lower of the forearms and lift. 2, 1. Back to the knees. Hanging out for 5, 4, 3, 2, bet you guessed it, 3 and 3. Plank pose, 3 push-ups, 3 lowers of the forearms, and lifts. Back to the knees for 5, 2, 1, 2 and 2. 1, 2. Lower the knees for 5, 3, 2. We've got 1 and 1 of each. 1, 1. Lower the knees to ground, sit hips back to heels. Cool, roll the shoulders up, back and down a few times. Then bring the forearms to the ground. Lift the hips to lift the hips to dolphin pose, not to forearm plank. Forearms on the ground, shoulders over elbows, hips are lifted. Just like we did in plank and downward dog, we're lifting the left forearm, touching right ankle, left forearm to ground, lift the right forearm, touch left ankle, right forearm to ground. Side to side, 5 more rounds each. 4. 2, 1, 1. Lower knees. Sit hips back to heels. Now that we've gone down the ladder, we gotta go back up it. Plank pose, 1 push-up, 1 forearm lower and lift. 1, 1. Simple. Lower the knees. 5, 3. Just getting hyped up for all of these fun push-ups. 2, 1, 2 and 2. Back to the knees for 5. Always gotta do your hair between these. 3, 2, 3 and 3. 1, 2, 3. A momentary break. Of course, wipe your nose. There's always snot involved. And then we got 4 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lower knees, sit back. Moment before the last set. And let's knock it out of the park. 5 and 5. 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower knees. Sit hips back to heels. Now I'm not quite sure if we did the set of 3 and 3 during the ladder back up. So just to make sure, let's do 3 push-ups and 3 lift and lowers with the forearms, just so we get it completely. Cool? Plank pose. 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. Now, we know we got it, or we might have done just a little bit of extra credit. Cool. Come to stand on your shins. Extend the right leg forward in front of you and land the right heel on the ground. Now, keeping the shoulders over the hips, the right foot flexed and the right leg long, you'll squeeze the right quadricep and use the right hip flexor just to lift the right heel as high off of the ground as you can. Think going from south to north and then back to south. So it's something like lift, lower, back down. Cool? 5 times this right leg. 4, 5. Right shin to ground. Left leg forward. Obviously, same thing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Left shin to ground. Grab one of your blocks. Now you can place your block at any of the 3 height settings that you would like. We're upping the elevation just a little bit. So the starting point and ending point is higher. That might very likely mean that the movement of the leg is less, but same thing. Starting with the right heel elevated 5 times, squeeze and lift. 5, switch legs. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Save the balance. Lower back to the shins. Cool, now grab your second block. You can place the blocks on top of one another at any of the height settings. So you have basically 6 options for heights depending on how you place the blocks. Back on the shins, same thing. Heel will start elevated. Try not to lean the upper body back. Squeeze the quadricep. Use the hip flexor. Flex the foot. 5 times. Lift. 2. 1. Switch legs. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. Gets much more difficult with the leg elevated. But when you're done, hips to heels, take your blocks, move them out of the way. We're actually done with our blocks for class now. Sweet. Move towards the back of the mat. Tuck your toes, sit your hips to heels, then lift both your knees off the ground. Move the inner thighs away from one another so the knees are moving towards the side edges of the mat. Then you'll round the upper body forward. Bring the forearms to the ground with the elbows as close to the toes as possible. Now start to slowly walk the forearms away from the feet till you're in forearm plank pose. Keep your shins off the ground the whole time as you walk forward. When you get to forearm plank, you'll walk the toes as close to the elbows as possible. Then you'll lift the forearms back to toe stand. Fun? Now we're going to reverse the steps. Round forward, bring the forearms to the ground, elbows as close to the toes as possible. Now walk the feet away from the elbows, forearm plank pose. Walk the elbows back to the toes to toe stand. Try to get as close as you can to the elbows. Then lift the forearms. Round forward, forearms to ground. Walk forward. Now feet follow towards the front of the mat. Lift the forearms, toe stand. Round forward, forearms to ground. Walk the feet back. Forearms will follow. Elbows as close to the toes as you can. Then lift the forearms, toe stand. One more round through. Let's go for it. Forearms back to ground. Feet will walk back. Forearms will follow. Back to toe stand. Stay on the toes, straighten the legs, rise all the way to stand. Cool, now exhale, fold the chest towards the thighs. Keep the heels lifted. Bend the knees to the hips to heels, back to toe stand. Now walk the hands forward, downward facing dog. Lift the hips up and away. Then we get to downward dog together. Take a full inhale breath through the nose. Open mouth, audibly exhale. So we'll move through a set of sun salutation variations, but we'll do so with our eyes closed. So if I catch any of you opening your eyes at any point during this next sequence, we will start the stand class over, and then I will double the blanket slides that we'll have to do together. Super fun, right? So close your eyes. On the inhale, lift the toes, bend knees. On the exhale, step or hop the feet between the hands to toe stand with the eyes closed. So you get there, hips are to heels, hands are lifted. On the inhale, straighten the legs, rise all the way to stand on the toes. Now exhale, fold the ribcage towards the thighs. Bend the knees, sit hips to heels, inhale. Bring hands to ground. On the exhale, you could step, or hop back through the full push-up. In plank, lower knee, shift hips back, lower forearms. Inhale, pull forward, upward facing dog or low cobra. Exhale, hips up and back, downward facing dog. Maybe after the first round you notice that you're a little off kilter on your mat. That's totally fine. And as we go through this action, notice how you react to the little wavers in balance that are assuredly going to happen with your eyes closed. Inhale, lift to toes. Exhale, step or flip, feet between hands. Toe stand, lift the hands. Inhale, straighten the legs, rise to stand. Exhale, fold the chest forward. Bend the knees, inhale, hips to heels. Exhale, land the hands, step or hop through the push-up. Lower knees, lower forearms. Inhale, upward facing or low cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, lift to toes, bend knees. Exhale, step or flip. Lift the hands, then inhale, straighten the legs, rise. Exhale, fold. Bend knees, inhale, hips to heels. Exhale, hands to ground. Push up or skip it. Lower knees, lower forearms. Inhale, upwards. Exhale, downward facing. 2 more rounds. All shut up. Move through it. Exhale, go. Last round. When you get back to downward dog, blink the eyes open. Lower your knees to ground. Untuck the toes to the hips to the heels. Maybe just take a moment to consider what you went through with your eyes closed during that little sun salutation sequence. Cool. Now, forget that sequence. Move your mat off to the side and out of the way, and grab your blanket. So as I said earlier, we have about 7 drills to do with our blankets. All 7 are moving in and out of plank pose in some form or fashion. Most of them you have most likely done with us before. They're not overly complex, but we'll do 10 reps of each, and we'll do them fully. Cool? Fun? Great. I know you're all really excited for this part. The first one, we'll start in plank pose. We'll try to keep the upper body more extended forward as opposed to rounded dramatically in the upper back. So what that will look like is, if this is our rounded plank pose, we want to think about moving the sternum more towards the top of the mat and trying to keep it there. Also, working to keep the hips basically at this same height as we bend the knees. Pull the knees towards the wrist and bring the knees just under the hips. So you're coming to a hovering tabletop, and then you'll extend the legs back. So that would be 1 rep. It's not a huge movement as you can see, but really focused on keeping the hips and the spine where they are when we begin plank pose as we go through the full action. Cool? To plank, toes can be tucked or untucked on your blanket. Doesn't matter, whatever feels best for you. Knees are lifted. Set your foundation. Bend the knees in. Slide away. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower knees. Here's another one of those times for that momentary break while I describe the next one. So this time we will go into as big of a rounding action in the upper back as possible in plank, so that we can fully pull the thighs all the way into the front body. Thighs to rib cage, from plank to the tuck position. This is 1 rep. Round, 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 pull in, then slide it back. So when you pull the knees into the chest, think about how light the feet can be on your blanket even. Yeah? Cool. Find your way to plank pose. Moving from plank to full tuck. Round, and then slide back. 10, 9, 8. Try to keep the shoulders forward. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fun, fun, fun stuff. So each one so far, we lifted the hips just a little bit higher and we've added more range into the movement. This one will be the full range, plank to pike. So that means that the hips will lift up towards the ceiling as much as you can. The spine will go through a little bit of rounding action and then through the extension. So the rounding starts as if we were doing the second sliding drill. Then when the hips really lift and start to move forward, that's when the extension of the spine hits, the thing that we were focusing on our first sliding drill. So I'll show you 1 rep. From plank pose, legs stay long, rounding to start pulling in and lift the hips, then press through the heels of the hands. Here's the extension as the toes move closer to the wrist. Then we're sliding the feet back to plank pose. Yeah, super fun. Again, when you get the feet closer and closer to the hands, think about the feet being lighter and lighter. Let's get at it. Hands to ground, plank pose, toes to wrist, slide back. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Really, really good work in the first 3 actions. Slide number 4, a combo slide. Plank to tuck, to pike, to tuck, to plank. So we're trying to keep as much of the foundation in our arms and upper body as possible as we move into the tuck, and then especially as we lift the hips up to the ceiling from tuck to pike. Controlling the lower of the hips back to tuck, and then sliding the feet back to plank. Seems like a lot, kind of is, especially near the last reps, but this is what it will look like, or potentially look like. Knees pull into tuck, drive down through the hands, lift the hips, rebend the knees to tuck, slide the feet back to plank. That's 1, we've got 10 of them. Let's do it. In, up, back to tuck, and back. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, last 2, 2, last 1, slide it back, and get the fuck out of there. Really good stuff. The great thing about teaching this stuff and then having to film it is I get to do every rep with you. I really love it. Really do. Now I know how much you hate me right now. Cool. Action number 5. That's right, we only have 3 more rounds to go. Starting in plank, to tuck with both feet. Then you'll lift one foot off the blanket, keep that knee into your chest, and slide the other leg back. So you're going plank to tuck to a one-legged slide back to plank. Then the knee into the chest will meet your other foot in plank pose. Something like this. Knees pull in, right knee stays, left leg floats back, right foot meets it. Cool? Little pieces of the puzzle, putting it together. I almost said something else, but I forgot what I was gonna say. Cool, 10 of these, plank pose. Knees to chest. Right foot lifts, left leg slides back, right foot to left. Knees in, left foot lifts, right leg slides back. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wasn't too terrible. Not nearly as bad as the tuck to pike to tuck to plank shit that we were doing just before this. Catch your breath for a moment. We're feeling it. We only got 2 more sets to go. Similar one leg lift, this time in pike. Now when you get from plank to pike with the hips lifted, instead of bending the knee into the chest, you'll just hover that foot just off the blanket. So you're keeping the foot low and it's following the leg back that's sliding the blanket back to plank pose. Cool? Look something along these lines. Plank, pike, right foot will hover. Keep the right leg pretty correspondent with the left leg to slide it back. Then land the right foot in plank pose. 5 on each leg, 10 total. Let's get at it. Pike, float, control. Pike, float, control. Pike, float, control. Pike, float, control. Boop, bop, beep, boop, bop, beep, boop, bop, beep, boop, bop, beep. Last round. I may or may not have lost count. You can let me know if we did extra that round or if we did just the right amount. We're done with 6 of our drills. We are on to drill number 7 as I catch my breath. Last set of 10. Plank to crow, back to plank. Now, the variation of crow that you choose can be anything. You can do crow pose with both knees on triceps, one-legged crow, keeping a knee to chest or even extending the leg. You could even go to a side crow, knee towards the outer opposite arm for a moment. But when you pull the knees forward to your crow positioning, lift at least 1 foot off of your blanket. So that allows you to self-assist in any of the crow positions that you need to. Cool. You could also pull forward and just hold a hovering Lolasana. Maybe lift a foot there, maybe lift 2 feet, straight arms, or bent elbows. So you have a lot of freedom with these last 10, but we're moving from plank towards a crow position and then back to plank. So, as I've done, quick demo. Plank, knees pull in, elbows will bend. Here's my simple crow. Back to plank. If I want to go to side crow, pull the knees across towards the right elbow, bend, lift, land the feet, slide back to center. Cool, you get the gist. A lot of creativity, a lot of freedom you got here. We'll do 10 of them. Ready? Losing my mind. Plank pose. Pull forward, let's go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, last one. And just like that, we are out of the blanket dry slide drills. So, you can get rid of your blanket, pull your mat back out, grab your chair, and put your chair onto your mat. I'll meet you there. So this is a chair. It's got a seat, it's got a back, it's got a top, it's got 4 legs that are somewhat stable at least. And then you have it on your mat so it doesn't slide out from underneath you at any point. We'll start with 2 pretty passive stretches using the chair. The first one, you can place your hands on the top back of the chair if the back of the chair is steady enough, or if your chair even has a back of the chair. If it doesn't, put your hands on the seat of the chair, obviously. So, hands are on your chair, arms are lengthening as you walk the feet away from the chair, and just drop the chest between the upper arms. Now, you might want to walk the feet just slightly behind the fronts of the hips, so you have a little bit more space for the hip flexors and the lower abdomen to extend out here. You're pressing down through the heels of the hands. You could wiggle the hips a little bit side to side while you're here. You could rock the chair forwards and backwards a few times. You could even move the chair a little bit side to side as you move the shoulders a little bit side to side. After all that torturous blanket slide stuff that we were doing, this hopefully feels pretty decent. Another option is always to release one arm. So you're just doing this with a single arm. And the arm that's hanging to kind of explore the space a little bit. And then maybe switch on. Back to both hands for just a moment. And then start to walk the feet forward towards the chair. Feels great on the shoulders. Second stretchy thing with the chair for now will be basically a variation of supported fish pose. So again, you have the option to place your shoulder girdle on the top of the back of the chair or on the chair seat itself. There's also a third option. You could place the shoulder girdle right on the edge of your chair. I'll show you all 3 options real quickly. This would be the top of the chair. Knees are bent, hips are lifted, arms would extend overhead, maybe hold on to opposite elbows and just wiggle a little bit side to side. Pop up. This would be using the seat of the chair. You'll have a little bit more foundation here. As you hang the arms off the edge of the chair. And then this would be the front or side edge of the chair. Shoulder girdle. Hips are up. In any of these 3 locations, if it makes sense for you to grab your chair with your hands and wrap a little bit, that's totally fine. But you'll notice in this variation, I just have the edge of my chair in my shoulder girdle kind of digging in as opposed to laying flat on it. Cool? So we'll be here for the next 10 breaths or so. You have time to move between the 3 locations, but let's get into it. Supported fish pose with our chairs. Also a great way to smell how glorious those blanket slides are. If you would like to change positions, maybe take a few moments to do that now for the remainder of our time here. Cool. And start to move off of the chair. Stand up. Now we'll get into some single leg squat action with our handy dandy chair. First one, basically a pistol squat, but instead of going full range or even forcing ourselves to go full range, we're standing in front of the chair, going butt to chair, and then back up single leg. Now, to make this a bit more challenging, on the lower, we'll get the hips as close to the chair as possible, then pause for a second. Then we'll sit down, and then on the lift up, we'll lift the hips just off of the chair, as small as we can, pause for a second, then rise to stand. So, what that will look like, right foot is on the ground, left foot is forward, right knee will bend, pause low, sit. Lean forward, lift the hips as low as you can, pause, rise. That's 1. We'll do 5 on each leg. You can switch leg each time, or you can do 5 and then 5. Sweet. Let's go for it. Bend, pause, sit. Lift, pause, straight. 5. Remember the pause, especially as you get deeper into it. If you did 5 on one leg, it gets a lot quickly. And switch to the second leg. Oh yeah. Shake out the legs when you finish that torture. And then round number 2. This time, somewhat of a shrimp squat position. Right foot will be forward to a place where the right knee is bending to a 90-degree angle, or a little bit broader than a 90-degree angle. So the right foot is slightly in front of the right knee. That's totally okay. It might depend on how it feels on your back leg. With the right foot forward, the top of the left foot will hook on the chair behind you. The chest will stay lifted, but it will tilt slightly forward. As you bend both knees, think about moving left knee to the ground so that the left shin is basically directly underneath the front edge of the chair behind you. Straighten both legs and rise. So, If you notice my front leg, my right knee went pretty far over my right ankle. So I'm gonna hop the right foot just a little bit more forward. Both knees will bend. Then I'm standing back up. Cool? 5 and 5 on each leg. Let's do it. I think "let's do it" is my phrase of class today. It's a really stupid phrase. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Switching legs. Top of the right foot hooks, toes are untucked. 5. So the knee doesn't have to touch the ground, but it can if it does naturally. 3, 2, 1. I think my other phrase of class today is just counting. I know, it's incessant, it's probably getting on your nerves. We're almost done. Cool? Third single leg squat position. This time, in and out of Skandasana with the extended leg elevated. So my left foot is here. My right foot is on the chair. Right leg stays long. Left knee will bend and straighten, but I'm still using the strength of the right leg to make this action happen. So the right leg is just dead weight. It's gonna put a lot of stress on my left hip and my left knee, and I want to try to avoid that as much as possible. So I'm pressing down through the right foot, bending the left knee. Think hips towards the level of the chair, and then back up. 5 and 5. 4, 3, 2, 1. Switcheroo. That was the chair. Bend. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lovely. Place your chair off to the side, out of the way for the moment. We'll get right back to the chair, but we got one more active drill to do together. So, pistol squat, shrimp squat, handstand hop to switch to the second leg. The pistol squat and shrimp squat can be to your own depth and range. You won't be using your chair. The handstand hop to the second side can be whatever handstand hop makes most sense to you. So you are doing the actions and you are creating the actions that seem most relevant, most appropriate, and most accessible to your practice right now. Always a very, very, very important part of your physical practice, taking control of it. No matter what the fuck I have to say, do what you have to do. Cool? So, what that could look like is, stand on the right foot, left leg is forward, pistol squat, rise, shrimp squat, rise, hands to ground, handstand hop, left foot to ground, right leg is lifted, right leg forward, pistol, rise, shrimp, rise, hands to ground, your hop switch, land the right foot, left knee in, so on and so forth. 5 on each leg, 10 times through total. 10 is our number today. Cool? Let's do it. 5 and 5. That's my first round.
That's 2. Three. Quick shirt tuck between rounds. Last round. Last switch. Maybe you catch some hang time. Maybe you try to hold it. And then it's back to ground. And then you catch your breath a little bit. After all, that's super challenging stuff that we just did together. I don't know why I made you do all that. It's fucking hard. But you did fantastic. Grab your chair. We'll stretch it out a little bit. So, facing your chair, right foot steps onto the chair. Left knee will bend to or towards the ground. If the left knee doesn't get to the ground and it's not comfortable for you here, grab one of your blocks, maybe both of your blocks stacked at the lowest height setting to slide under your left knee. If you get your left knee to the ground, of course, it's not quite as necessary. But you can use your chair to help add some tension into this position, as much or as little as you would like to. We'll be here for the next 5 or 6 breaths or so. You can also move inside of your inner thigh. You can stay more upright over your left knee and left hip a little bit. And all this changes the sensation wherever you're wanting to go and wherever you would like to explore in our time here. The left knee could also slide farther and farther back behind you, even to the point where the left knee is lifted and the left leg is extended. And again, this is all just up to you. Maybe like 2 more breaths or so. Well, then you can lift the left knee. Stand up to switch sides. A couple more breaths here. Finally, out of the second side. You might want your blanket for this next one to place on the seat of your chair. And we'll finish with an elevated pigeon position. So the right shin will be on the seat of the chair. The left foot can walk back. Again, you have the option left knee to ground, left knee lifted, maybe blocks helping support your left knee. wherever it may end up. And of course you have time to finagle and move around here. And this is just super boring for you. While we're doing these stretches, you could just jump to the ground for a blanket and do some more blanket slides. You know, in case you haven't had enough of them today. There's always room for more. That was sarcasm. Don't do any more today. Or at least right now. You know, if you want to redo this class this afternoon or like later tonight or something, yeah, that'd be fun too. That'd be enjoyable. I'll shut up. We'll switch sides. Left shin on the seat. This is one of those positions, especially in the elevated position, where one side is just drastically different than the other side, at least for me. Maybe it is for you, maybe it's not. It does feel pretty lovely, if I do say so myself, in this elevated pigeon shape. Couple more breaths here. And you can start to find your way out of side number 2. Last little shaky shake of the legs. And that's all I got for you folks today. Lovely to share this truly horrendous class with all of you. Can't wait to see your emails and your feedback telling me to fuck off and to never teach a class again. Totally acceptable, totally viable, but hopefully I'll see you soon. Now I'm gonna go back to reading about how to talk to Penelope about gun safety, because that is extremely important as well. See you guys soon.